From multiple live locations in Minneapolis or near enough, this is Nice Games Club, the show where nice game devs talk gaming and game development.
I'm Ellen Burns-Johnson, and I make nice games.
I'm Stephen McGregor, and I make nice games.
And I'm Arthur Croy. I too make nice games. For this episode, it's another Nice Games Jam. We've been given a prompt sealed in an envelope, and we're going to try to come up with a complete game that you can play before the end of the episode. Will it work? We and you are about to find out. And so if everyone is ready, I can see Ellen. You're really selling it to me that you're ready. But if we all are,
so ready.
Let's start. All right, Stephen, let's take a look at this envelope, but let's share with the viewers. No. I'm teasing. I'm teasing the envelope.
Okay.
Hold it close up to the camera.
Yeah.
Let it burn into our souls for a couple more minutes.
So what is this and why do we have it?
This is our Nice Games Jam prompt, and it will tell us what we're supposed to do during this game jam, what our prompt is. And we'll build a game based off of it over the next hour.
So my next question is, why on earth did we agree to that?
We weren't in our right mind when we came up with this? I don't know.
That sounds about right, yeah.
It seems like we'll say yes to anything, apparently.
Uh-huh.
We do nice game jams on our show, Nice Games Club, our podcast. And they have oftentimes been successful. We've never done a live show before, though, so this should be fascinating for sure.
So, Ellen, I see an ominous clock over your shoulder. That can't be relevant to tonight's proceedings, could it?
Well, it's actually not a real clock. It's just a decoration. I love clocks. No, I don't particularly like clocks. This clock is important, though, because part of the big, rule set that we give ourselves to do a Nice Games Jam is that we've got to finish the whole thing in an hour, which is sometimes we've succeeded and sometimes we have not. But it's definitely part of the mix. So when we are ready to start, I will set this timer for an hour, and when an hour is passed, it will beep to tell everyone that our time is up for trying to make it work.
Yes.
And because we're doing it live and we don't have the ability to edit, although if you're listening to this on a normal feed and there are no particularly embarrassing moments, it's because we did edit it after all. But because we're doing it live, we're going to be doing this in more discrete chunks than we normally do our Nice Games Jams. Isn't that right?
Yeah. So I think our plan is to have the first 15 minutes be like brainstorming, figuring out what it is we're going to actually do. And then, or figure out what it is, like the game we're actually trying to make. And then the next 15 minutes will be like prototyping. We'll figure out what the game is, what you actually do in the game. And then the last 15 minutes, we'll actually play the game. And as you can see with my lovely hands here, I'll be the one doing the game playing for the team.
Right. And we made sure we put a camera on Steven's die rolls so he wouldn't cheat. That's the reason,
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I definitely am not wild about winning. So
Not competitive at all.
No.
So I should, before we get started, real quick, this is as part of 2DCon, which is happening online this year. And not just 2DCon, but the other thing that's different about this for us is that we're raising some money. 2DCon has a donation link, 2dcon.net/donate, supporting able gamers. They are already past $4,000 and looking for more than that. And for that to happen, it needs your dollars. So go ahead, 2dcon.net/donate. Be nice and throw in some coin.
Yeah.
All right. What do you say we open that envelope and, deal with the results?
You don't want to talk about it a little bit more? Talk about like the weight, the heft of the envelope?
It's been burning a hole in your
keep
table.
it from happening? Well,
Yeah.
So how did this come to us? How did this prompt get in our hands?
That's a good question. Yes, I like the delay. Dylan, friend of the show and Evil Game compatriot, gave us this prompt inside here, and Dale, who is also an Evil Games compatriot and runs our Twitter, wrapped it up all nice, gave it a nice little wrapping and things.
Nice is written over the seal, so we couldn't cheat.
Yes,
very clever.
Well, that's why I was there. my original plan wouldn't have worked.
For folks watching on Twitch who are not as familiar with our show, we do have occasional Evil Games Club episodes where an entirely different cast comes in and gives us the business, and they take over the show for a week. And actually, Evil Games Club was this most recent episode. So if you head to nicegames.club and check us out, that you'll see that, and you'll get a flavor for what that's about. They'll come in and take over from time to time and cause us trouble. And that is also what's in this envelope, trouble. So what do you say? You want to open it up and see how we do?
Yeah, let's try it. Okay, here we go. I didn't practice this ahead of time, so if this is slow.
I can see a stack of envelopes like under the table.
Oh, wow, I did this perfectly. Yeah, that was... I actually practiced this many times, yes, like I was saying. From the desk of your boyfriend, Dylan.
That's right, Dylan is the show's boyfriend.
Yes. Nice Games Club. I've seen a lot of games about automation lately. Your mission, take on this genre. Create a game where you are working together to construct a robot, but each player, or some players, has a secret task they are trying to get the robot to complete along the way. Good luck, Dylan.
Oh, man, that's good.
Yeah, that's really good.
I mean, we are not in any shape to get it done, but yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's got robots, it's got secrets, it's got other things. It's good.
I mean, you had me at robots, but... All right, Ellen, go ahead and put 15 minutes on the clock, and let's try not to look at it too much.
Oh, there's no way we're going to avoid it.
Yeah,
go.
Like right there.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so how do we approach this prompt?
So I'm thinking cards, like a deck.
Oh, with cards, sure.
With like different pieces of robots that the team has to somehow lay on the table to construct the robot.
Like kind of arrange them, sort of dominoes style, but with cards that have robot pieces on them?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Oh, okay. Not like 52 cards.
No, not like your standard playing card deck, but like it's a card game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's what comes to mind. What do you guys have?
We've got that too. I think that makes sense. Yeah, and especially if this is a game about secrets, I think some form of hidden information other than the secret itself would be valuable to like keep that secret alive for yourself. If that makes sense?
Yeah. And so ultimately, when the robot is assembled in whatever way it's assembled,
yes,
we want it to be obvious to all what the robot then does. But then after that, we reveal who matched up with that outcome the best, or whose motivation that. Does that sound?
Yeah. Well,
so
yeah.
The trick is how do we make that information secret, but then not reveal it just through play, right?
Sure.
Like I'm building a cannon arm because I want this to be a death bot or whatever. But then that kind of gives up. Like there could be bluffing involved, right? Like I could say like, oh, I'm going to put tank treads on this thing, and like, oh, that player must want them to like, to go over rough terrain or something. But like that's not what you actually want to do. But you waste a turn on a bluff or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I like that idea. The way I'm thinking of it is like, I'm gonna sketch some stuff. I'm sorry, Ellen, in advance. I'm messing up your things, but
that's why I gave them to you.
Okay, yeah. So I'm thinking like maybe each card has like each like these are little parts that you're planning on putting in your robot, and maybe your robot has like 15, 20 parts on it or something. But each card is worth a certain amount of like different units of here. Let me try writing it down. So like, okay, I can't draw. Here's the sword. That looks like the sword, right? You can't even see it. So this is, oh my gosh, my handwriting is great. So that's just a sword. So let's say this part is worth 15 battle points.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe other parts are worth like 5 battle points and 10 movement points or something. And so like each person's secret goal is like craft a robot that has 50 battle points and 25 movement points. And if you get that, you get a certain amount of points. Maybe each player gets like 3 hidden goals that they have to try to go for or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that I'm going for something and you don't know if it's my prime goal or secondary goal or
exactly.
It could service multiple goals, for example. I like the idea of stats. One, because I think it's something we can accomplish.
Yeah.
But also it can then obfuscate the ultimate motivation, right? Because it's hidden behind math.
Yes. Exactly.
So I think that we're on to something with the mechanics, but the thing that's starting to that my brain is starting to pick at is what's our win state? Like how do
Yeah.
How do you win?
How do you end? Yeah, that's a good question.
Like, so there's a goal
right
that everyone shares, but then there are also secret goals. How do you know when you've met the shared goal? How do you know when you've met the secret goal? Because they can't be mutually incompatible, right? They can't be incompatible with each other.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead. Go ahead, Steven.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think like when you've completed your robot, that would be when you determine who's won and who hasn't. I was thinking, but where were you going with it, Mark?
I was thinking that why don't we make it's a bunch of engineers building a robot to resolve a conflict. So there's another robot or there's some other thing it needs to take care of. Mm-hmm. And the different motivations I have are like, it's another robot over the hill. So my motivation is to build the most powerful robot so we can just destroy the other robot.
Yeah.
Right? But then another player is saying like, I want to build a robot with ultimate diplomacy skills so it can talk its way out of this giant battle, right?
Yes.
So our robot will have D&D stats is what you're saying. It'll have a high charisma. So like,
you either want to be like, the Iron Giant, like built for war, but interested in peace, or like Johnny Five, also built for war, but interested in peace. This is the common robot cliche. But we can leverage that, right? So it can be, so why don't we have and every game could be different. So you have scenarios that the team has to solve. So the goal of the team is to solve it, and so it is solved. But the individual goals of the players is to solve it in their particular way, to say advance. Someone works for the DoD and somebody works for NASA, and they have different motivations as to like what how to develop this robot program or something. And a win based on what they're interested in I'm now getting into the theme of it, but.
All right, so that makes me think I'm actually now envisioning like 3 decks, right? So you have a big fat stack of decks that's all robot parts of various types. And it might have like keywords on it, like, whatever the stats are. It might, mention some of the stats on each of the different parts and appendages and things that you have. I'm going to laugh here for a second and mention that my sister helps coach a robotics team for high school. And I'm really excited to make her listen to this episode so she can listen to how wrong everything is.
Sweet.
Right. So that's your big stack of appendages. You have a smaller stack of like robot challengers, like that have different win conditions. Like you have to have at least this many of this stat in order to beat this scary robot. Or you have to have like this robot will only be defeated if your robot has 10 arms. I don't know. And then you have like the third stack, which is like either whatever the secret goals are. And maybe depending on the theme, maybe those secret goals are just like, here's the mission from Secret Robot Intelligence. Or maybe like you are a character from different robot engineering firms around the world. Like I'm trying to come up with a word that rhymes with Boston. Anyway,
Roboston.
Basto
Write
Dynamo.
That down, right?
Okay.
Okay, I like the 3 decks idea. I think the motivations, I almost want to have it to be a little bit more werewolfy, where there's like 3 or 4 just known factions, rather than like a whole ton of different motivations. But talk me out of it. Is that too limiting?
We have an hour.
Yes, but we can say there's a deck full of things and then just design 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking like
in terms of roles, like you're describing, Mark. I think like each one of us could be like of a different role, and like we can hide. We'll find some way to hide it here. Why did they pick a hidden information game while we're streaming live?
Because our boyfriend Dylan likes to make it tough for us.
That's
Evil Games Club. Evil Games Club.
You're right.
It's, of course, I'm looking at Twitch chat. It's talking about nothing but evilness, evil versions of things.
Good.
Which seems to...
Evil Robot Club is the name of our game.
Yeah.
We've got that down at least.
Yes.
There are 3 decks. The name of the game is Evil Robots Club, and okay, cool.
So actually, the way that you're describing it, Mark, it could be that one faction is trying to sabotage the robot and make it less effective.
Oh yeah,
and
okay.
One faction is the engineers who actually want to get the robot to be functional and be able to defeat these 3 goals that they get. And then a
love
third
that.
faction does a thing. I don't know what the third faction does.
So like, well, if we're gonna borrow from Werewolf or all of those millions of games that uses mechanics, we can have like 5 factions, but like fewer than 5 players, right? So you don't know. There's some unknown as to who's on the board. But yeah, I like the idea that one of them is meant to sabotage, right? To damage the credibility of this robot program. One of them could be the sort of peacenik scientist who wants to solve it in a way that does not involve a single, charred out building. One can be just, the square shouldered general. I'm thinking entirely in the language of 1980s movies with robots in them.
Yeah. Yes, that's good.
I'm not going to stop until you stop me.
No, I think that's our aesthetic now. So
okay.
There's our art style.
We could actually pitch this to what? Who has the rights to Short Circuit? Is it MGM? I don't.
Warmongers? I'm going to call the last section Warmongers because I can't come up with a better one right now.
So one of our nemesis robots can be Johnny Six.
Yeah. Okay, so some number of factions, and we'll design a few of them, but they don't have to be all inclusive.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so the next part then is the deck of cards that represent the robot parts, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Exactly.
So we could do it in a way that is more like a board game style, like Operation, but then you move pieces on a board, or like RPG inventory where there's slots that you put cards on or something. Yeah. Or it can just be a deck of cards that you then, so the robot could be bigger or smaller depending on how many cards are placed or whatever.
Yeah.
Or it could just be cards you play and they're not assembled. I'm not sure, Ellen, where you were thinking of how it might look visually.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah, well, I was thinking like we could have different categories of pieces, and to have a complete. We could write in the rules like to have a complete robot that you need at least there needs to be a body and there needs to be something that moves, right? And like that's. Yeah. It just needs, then beyond that, like it needs to have, I don't know. We can make more constraints if we want to, but I think just to start simple, like, there needs to have like a chassis, it needs to have like a body, and then it needs to have some form of, I don't even know if we want to put any more there. Like there needs to be a body piece. The rest is up to you and however you want to beat this robot. But the opponent robot's going to have criteria too. Like, your robot has to move it so many miles per hour.
There's it needs a body, and the body can have components in it, like a processor or a targeting computer or something. So that could be. So those could be cards you play. Mm-hmm. Then you can attach appendages, any number of legs. It's a robot, or tank treads or whatever. Any number of arms, and then maybe separately you can have the robot brain. And this is where we can get kind of silly and like a morality core or. Or like a super cooled processor, so it can do stuff like that or whatever. So there'd be like body, brain parts, or and the something like that. Okay, so then the way you'd play it is you have a hand that you essentially. Okay, well, we can get into that in the next section, like the actual specific.
Yeah, like you draw so many parts, and then you have to like go around in turns to place different parts. And
yeah. So and if somebody gets to fill that slot before you do, well, then you're all building it quickly because it's an emergency. So that's the.
I also think what I might suggest maybe is that there's a limited number of connection spots on each card. So like if you have and that could be a variable that we play with, like a chassis.
So a maximum of like 22 legs.
Yeah, or like if you want to have 22 legs, you have to connect 2 chassis together, so you have a terrible robot centipede happening.
The power tap or whatever it is, to add extra controllers. Okay, I love that. That's fantastic. So the normal chassis comes with let's say bipedal amount of ports, but you can add a splitter or an extra. I love it. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got 2 or 3 minutes left in this section. So the third deck is the challenge or the opponent or something. So that could be just like a card with like the whole scenario on it. It could just be like 30, 50 scenarios, and that'd be an opportunity for expansions if this game were commercial. Mm-hmm. Or it could be, you could assemble it from various parts. Like it could be another robot always. I'm kind of leaning towards it just being like a scenario that has criteria for solving.
I like that. The interesting thing is you could have then like different decks and different like flavors of challenges. You could have an entire deck that's like environmental challenges or a kaiju deck and like nasty alien deck and stuff like that.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I love that. That's really good. Okay. Yeah. So that's roughly okay. Look, I mean, we've got like 90 seconds left in this brainstorming, and I think we're doing really good.
Yeah, I'm already at the point where I'm like, let's make this. I want to play.
Okay, so for clarification's sake, there are 3 decks. And what are the 3 decks rolls specifically? I want to write them down for our listeners. And viewers, I guess. We're live.
There's the parts deck. It's a big deck full of robot parts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Some more practical than others.
Sure. My handwriting is atrocious. I am apologizing.
That's mostly for your benefit.
I'm writing
and for visual interest.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, parts.
There is the factions deck.
Factions. Oh, and this is where the hidden information comes into play?
That's where your hidden goals come into play.
Gotcha. And then the mission deck, right?
Yes. Mission deck.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we can.
So I think ultimately the parts will be this enormous 300 card deck.
It'll be monstrous.
And then the factions and missions will be shorter.
Yeah.
But then as you buy new mission decks or whatever.
You'll get more
in faction decks, you can do more factions too, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's really good. Change the... I love it. We've already got a market plan for this thing.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, how did that happen? It'll be a nice small deck, so it probably won't be very expensive. It'll be great.
It's done. The thinking time is over. The doing time begins.
Time.
What are we supposed to do now?
Sketching stuff. Well, we've got these 3 decks, right?
Yeah.
So we need to get really figure out exactly how they work.
Yes.
And also turn order, max number of players, all the things that turn this from a cool potential idea to a total slog.
Yeah.
Now's the time for that.
All right, you guys ready for the next section?
No, but whenever you're ready.
I'm starting the next section.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm imagining that the way I'm thinking of it is you have a deck of cards, right? And they all have your different parts or whatever. And then you have on your right next to you have your hidden information. This is your faction. This is what you're going to do. Tells you what you want to win with. And so what I'm thinking is that each turn what can happen is each person places face down their the part that they want to put on the robot next. And maybe it starts in 3 sections. Maybe you start with the body, and then you move on to the brain, and then you do the legs and the other appendages or whatever. And so the first thing you do is you pick the body, and each person each person places what they think would be a good body type. And then it flips, and maybe that's hidden. Maybe you don't see who put the body out, who put each body type out or whatever. And they flip it, and then you can, as a group, talk about it for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and determine what makes sense for this robot.
Oh, so there's negotiation.
Yeah.
I didn't consider that, but I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Well, how about
wait, Ellen? Do you not like it?
I'm just trying to think of how we would, right? Because it's negotiation.
Yeah. And I mean, that makes it kind of hard, right? Because the loudest person at the table tends to be the one who wins whatever negotiation, I think.
Well, how about this?
Go ahead.
Let's remove the requirement to agree on anything.
Okay.
Right? So everybody gets to do independent actions.
Yeah.
But there's a period where you try to convince each other to do something different. So it gives an advantage in some degree to people who are persuasive or super good bluffers, but doesn't give them any kind of mechanical domination.
Gotcha.
Presumably.
And then at the end, you like vote on it?
No. How about okay, this is going to be a small number of players, right? I think there's three of us. This idea might limit us in that case. Okay. I was thinking it'd be fun to have 8 or 9 people, but I think so everyone puts down a card, and maybe the backs of the cards show what type of component it is. This is a processor, or this is a configuration joint or something, or this is an append or some category of part.
Yep.
You put that down, so I know what part you want to place, and I'm like, oh, but I was going to take that slot. So if they do that kind of computer in my hand, I've got the one, but I really want to get down that chainsaw right away and so everybody places it down, and then there's a period where you can talk about, and this is where you can kind of bluff. You could be like, oh, you know what? I don't have any computers in my hand, so you might want to save that one for when there's something like that, perhaps. And then maybe there's some mechanic for everyone to get a mulligan, everyone maybe in turn, so it doesn't just go forever. In turn, everyone can swap their card out once or something. And then that can just cycle every turn. The first person goes can be different.
So let me make sure that let me kind of talk through what that would be then,
Yes.
right? So we are in the very first part of building the robot, and it's the first round, right? And so I think that solution, that idea of having the type of part on the back of the card, is totally the right thing to do, because otherwise you're going to have people pulling all the same parts, and dialogue's going to go forever. Yeah. But then by seeing what parts people are playing and picking and how they're arguing, like, you might be able to figure out what their faction is and be able to cut them off. So anyway, so we all draw cards from our hand, and we put our hands down, and we put down the card that we want to play, and when everyone's ready, everybody flips. And, if all the parts can be played on the table at the same time, that's by default what happens. If there is a conflict, like two people have played chassis and you only have enough engine power or whatever for one right now, then there has to be like a team discussion and a vote.
Okay. So so normally it just moves on. But if something needs to be resolved, then there's some mechanism for doing that.
Yeah, vote, or you flip a coin or something like that.
Yeah, or you spend points that you have, like influence points, perhaps.
Oh,
that's a new.
And you have a limited number of them, so like you could be like, we both put down an appendage in the last appendage slot. Well, okay, but I have my last, but I really, really want this appendage. Like, it's critical to my success, so I will then use my influence points, and maybe it's a bidding war until you both run out or something.
So we're adding a lot of dynamics. If I might channel my inner agility.
Rein me in.
Maybe start with something simple like vote or flip coin. Yeah. And then if that's not getting what we want in terms of the intrigue.
Okay, so some mechanism, but we'll start as simple as we can.
Yeah, let's try it simple, and then if we need to make it,
I love it. So how about the other thing I had of this is let's just have, instead of revealing what part it is, let's just leave the categories on the table until all the slots are full. And then at the end of the game, you flip them all over and see what robot you've got.
Okay.
Because that keeps my faction hidden as long as possible.
Right.
And it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And it gives some doubt as to whether the team will win. Yeah. Right? In any fashion, right? Because the team will all get points if you win, but then someone will get extra points if they're... Does that... Ellen? Skeptical.
What makes you say that?
I don't know. I'm just trying to simplify the headspace. Like, if I put down a computer part in the last computer part slot, but I don't need to reveal what it is, and then I take that secret all the way to the end of the game. And then other people don't have to think too much about how to compensate for the result every turn or change their strategy. The game could move a lot quicker, maybe, but it also might end up being way too much decision paralysis in the last couple turns. I don't know.
I think the thing that makes me there are two things that make me think that I think we should just have people show what parts they're building as they lay them down on the robot. So they lay down, and it says that this is a component of this type. You flip it, and everyone sees what part it is and what the stats are and everything. I think there are two reasons why that would be fun. One, I think it actually is kind of a cool thing to try to guess everyone's faction. And because that might influence your choices about what you do.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that would be fun to play out as the robot is being built. The other thing that's fun is it is cool to do a flip reveal, and maybe that could be a different mode of the game where you just put it down blind and you flip it and you're like, what is this? But there's a scenario you're trying to beat with specific winning victory criteria. And so I think it'd feel bad if you flip it over and you're like, what did we do? This is not going to work.
Okay.
The other thing is,
and it being funny is not nearly enough of a consolation prize to that.
Well, maybe, but I don't.
I'm with you. I think you're totally sinking this battleship of my idea on this. I think you're totally right.
I wanted to play with that idea though, because I think the idea of a totally, as you know from my development on Widget Satchel, things that don't work that just involve whacking.
Yeah.
That's my jam. I'm all about that. So if you just have a complete crap pile of a robot, that's hilarious to me. But that feeling of hilarity is going to happen when someone is okay, so this robot is looking very, very man person. Like it's got two arms, it's got a leg where you just have to add another leg, and someone comes out with like a weird tentacle thing. You know, like
right.
like that's
a good one.
Surprise, it's wings. Like
like
okay.
I think we'll get that if we put some weird stuff in the parts deck.
Yeah, you're super right. And I think the other thing, the problem with my suggestion is that it doesn't give you enough information to play the second turn. There's something there, but I don't think I think it's probably the wrong direction. So I'm with you. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I do want to make sure we preserve that hilarity, but doing it on a per turn basis sounds totally, I think we can capture that.
Yeah. I do want to, once we finish this game, we can do that one next.
right. Yeah. With the time we have, just reset the clock.
So is it apparent in the beginning that you what the mission is? Like when you start building a robot, you know right away?
I think so. Okay, yeah.
That makes sense.
Because then you have to decide like, I need to plan. We all need to work together to solve this. Yeah. But I need to trick them into doing things that will also help mine or whatever. Yeah. And those are complicated motivation scenarios and mechanics that we're probably not going to be successful in totally making work in our first prototype. Mm-hmm. But that's going to be what balance and number fiddling is going to ultimately get us to.
Okay, is what I'm doing with these cards making sense? It's kind of hard to read them, but like
these are the categories for robot parts.
Sort of. So, like I made appendages. I don't know how to spell it. So if this is wrong, somebody tell me. This is body. I don't know. There's different types of bodies, different types of appendages. There should be different types of process, which y'all brought that up. Things like that. And then each of us gets like one of these things and we place it on the table, and then like based on like the qualifications of what the robot works, if that makes a full robot, that is the full robot, correct? Or am I missing something?
There's two ways to do it. One is to have an empty, like a board or a sheet or just a grid. Like the robot is an empty shell and you fill it with parts. It's the torso case and you put stuff in it and attach things to it. And so the cards represent the things you attach. Or there's a card that's body type, like quadruped or biped or insectoid or some other kind of or helicopter or whatever. and whoever places that first, and maybe it isn't the first thing placed, right? Yeah. That would then determine what goes on to it. I'm kind of leaning towards the former, just because that's a little less complicated. Mm-hmm.
And or you pull all the chassis parts out of the parts deck, and you just draw the first one after shuffling them, and that's what your team has to build with.
Oh, I like that. Okay. Well, I mean, that could also be resolved simply by rolling a die and looking at a table, right?
Yeah.
In terms of, so let's imagine that that could be a thing, but let's just pick one, just bipedal robot with potential expansions.
Yeah. Okay.
And then perhaps we could, the game would be suited to have other types later.
Okay.
Okay. So the types are like attachments, and that's arms, legs, weapons that go right into the shoulder. And then something you put in the body, whether that's like PCI Express cards or something, and then then things you put in the brain or the head, which would be like CPU, and I mean you can put a CPU anywhere, but it's a robot, so it goes in the head. And then a laser sight, visual, that kind of thing. So mapped roughly to human capabilities. Does that make sense?
Boots.
Okay, so let me write this.
So that's just three categories then. Yeah. Right? It's body stuff, head stuff, limb
body
stuff.
Head stuff, limb stuff. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Limbs, that's a much easier way. I can spell limbs. I can't spell appendages.
For the purposes of our design, I think limbs is great, but I think ultimately we'd want to call them something else for the sake of the theme, because it could include things that aren't, but I think for our purposes, to keep things straight, probably what we want to go with for now.
Well, this is a wild idea. Just while Steven's writing things out. What if we like combine the idea of having the grid but also the decks, and the things that you draw and play from your deck, your parts deck, are there, and those control your stats, right? But then you also have this like either sheet of paper or whiteboard or whatever in the middle, where someone gets to make an attempt at drawing this thing, and it's absolutely has no mechanical purpose. It's just adding to the craziness, I guess.
So the game comes with a little whiteboard, and somebody's in charge, the quartermaster or something, or the lead engineer or something is responsible for drawing it. I like that. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's Steven in this prototype.
Yeah.
Yes, it would be me.
And it could be like a roll that passes, like, like a little token that you pass around for each round.
Oh, yeah. So it ends up becoming sort of an exquisite corpse, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a game. We could remove all the mechanics from this and just draw a card that tells you what to draw on a robot, and that's just a party game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. But later.
I like how this game has spawned into like 5 different games. We're developing it this way. I guess that's kind of how development works, really.
Yeah. Is how many rabbit holes do you want to
chase? Do I need to draw all of these parts? Then
yeah, this is the problem because we only have a couple minutes left for this section, and we wanted to move into playtesting.
Right.
But really, we do need to generate some materials here.
Yes.
So
let's talk. Use other things to generate the materials because I'm not going to be able to draw these fast enough for 15 minutes of testing.
Well, I think drawing. You don't need to worry about drawing.
Okay.
Let's have. We now need to pick what the stats are, and so let's say there's 3 types of stats, and then we should pick in each category. We should pick say 3 or 4 items and give them plus whatever to those 3 stats. And we're just going to randomly pick a bunch of things, and then that's going to be our deck.
Okay.
That's going to eat some time. This is normally a big... Sometimes when we do games like this, dear listener and viewer, this is what we cut out of the show, is some of the sort of just writing things down in a notebook. But we're going to have to find a way to make this happen as quickly as we can.
Well, Steven is writing. If we can somehow, as a group, multitask here, while Steven's writing down stats and things for limbs... and whatnot. Maybe we could bounce some ideas around for a scenario.
Yes, that's a good idea. So, Steven, your the spreadsheet is yours to create.
Okay,
get to it.
Okay, cool. Let's go. I guess viewers will be able. I guess y'all be able to see it too while I'm doing it.
Yeah, right. You're gonna have to really hurry though because you've got seconds. Ellen, quick, add more time.
Should I cheat?
Yeah, give us 5. Give us 5.
All right. Yeah. Give us 5 minutes. That's a time timer, by the way. So people who are mentioning in the chat, you like the clock. It's called Time Timer, which I do love the product. That name is really, really lame. But yeah. Anyway, okay. So
scenarios, missions. What do you got?
The first thing that popped into my head was giraffes.
Okay, we can work with that.
I don't know why. So let's go with it.
Okay, so we can imagine a bunch of scenarios. We should come up with a few and then design one.
There's a horde of zombies. There's a horde of zombie giraffes. There's one.
Okay.
Descending on Gotham City.
Okay. That's pretty good. Yeah, we can. I mean, really, ultimately, these scenarios could be like utterly incompatible with each other. They could all be the plots of wildly different movies.
Yes.
Rather than being all sort of feel like they're from the same thing.
Yes.
Okay, so another one might just be, opposing robot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And could be randomly designed or could use the similar stats or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Another one might be more like Army Corps of Engineers kind of stuff, like building a bridge, right?
Yeah. Someone mentioned forest fire, which...
Oh, okay, yeah. I like that. And then the faction is trying to damage things. We'll put a flamethrower on it instead of the hose.
Counterfire. That's a thing. That's a firefighting technique, though, isn't it?
It sprays gasoline instead of water.
That's amazing.
That's pretty good. Yeah. So we have zombie giraffes. A wave shooter, basically. A multi-vector target.
Yep.
You have your big robot to go against.
And you have a natural disaster.
Your robot differently.
Yep.
Natural disaster. It's a building or constructing or some sort of thing like that. So these are sort of roughly categories. Mm-hmm. I like all of that. Do we want to pick one of those, or should we maybe think of a couple more?
We can do a couple more, but we also have to come up with factions.
Yes. Okay. So.
Oh, dang it! I gotta draw those too.
So maybe we just stick with opposing robot for now.
Let's stick with opposing robot. I think that'd be the easiest. I'm not even sure where to begin coming up with stats for horde of zombie giraffes.
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of. Let me real quick. I've been drawing. I have 3 shapes, and oh boy, I just dropped a mark. Well, I have 3 shapes. This is fun. I have 3 shapes that I made. Let's see if you can see them. This is like brain.
Move it closer to the camera.
Yeah, brain. This is
brain
attack.
Power, right?
Yeah, brain power. This is attack power. It's swords. You can tell. And then this one's shield defense.
Okay.
That's all I have for stats. I don't know.
Okay.
We can
Something to start with.
if you want. Yeah.
Other scenarios might require the other stats, but I think those 3 are good for the scenario we're designing.
Yeah.
So it's good enough for this prototype. Excellent for this prototype, in fact. I love it.
Cool.
Cool deal.
I'll keep trying because I only did the bodies. I got to keep doing stuff.
Yeah.
Brain. So there's brain. The factions are going to have to be focused either around the outcome of the scenario or the stats, right?
Yeah, so the thing about the scenario that I kind of want to get to is what is the criteria for beating the scenario? So if it's another robot, we don't need to have... The scenario should be resolved or not at the end of the game. There shouldn't be like a whole bunch of turns of fighting a robot.
No.
So my thinking is the alternate robot has... It requires you to have X amount of power in these categories or whatever in order to defeat, if that makes sense, right? And then so really all you're going for... The simplest version of this is like, think of like the 3 stats is like, red, blue, yellow. And then all you're doing is just like adding more to each of those things because the thing requires this much of red, blue, or yellow. That's the sort of the distilled version of this, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So that doesn't sound fun.
No.
And ultimately it would be stats, but then also it would like a robot would be like, oh, this robot is immune to this type of attack. So the limb you put on it doesn't just have an attack power, it has a category or something. So this would be, the game would have lots of dimensions perhaps that we don't need to worry about for prototype, but like like a buzzsaw versus a laser, right? They both have the same attack power, but they are good against certain types of scenarios or whatever that could be part of that. So it could be more interesting and complicated, but we don't really have the capacity for that exactly. Does that make sense, or am I leaving too much for later?
No, I think we want to. The thing that I'm worried about is that, like, if it's not fun with a few mechanics, add it like a few stats, then adding more stats. Yeah. I don't. Maybe it works, but it feels itchy to me. It doesn't feel like the right.
That sounds like something I would say. So I think you just got me. So there should be some other criteria. Like that's the thing that I hung up on is exactly. Like how to determine if you as a team have met the goal.
It could just be that like you have to make sure you have a certain number of stats of each section of each thing, and maybe each faction wants to have that the most of each thing in it. So like the warmonger wants as many swords as possible.
Yep.
But like you only need 10 swords to beat this.
Oh, okay.
That's totally it.
The co-op battle isn't that mechanically interesting. Because you'd have to be a pretty crappy team to lose that.
Yes.
Or
right?
deep-seated rivalries between your factions that go back multiple games.
Yes.
Or it's a particular challenge for the sabotage faction to prevent that from happening.
Right.
So, okay, so that's good.
So there's like, Stephen, you said like the aggressor faction is going to be like, you win, your faction wins the interfaction conflict this round if your robot has more swords than any other stat. And the pacifist faction wins if they have the most defense of every stat. Or if we have more stats later, maybe the most huggableness or something. I'm not sure.
Yep.
The Cthulhu faction wins if you have the most appendages or whatever. And then like the evil faction.
Merchandising department wins if there's like the most
logos on it.
And fins. Like
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so we've got aggressor, we've got pacifist. Oh, and then the create an AI that can take over the world faction wins if you have the most brain. And then the evil games club faction wins if you've somehow sabotaged it so that your robot does not meet the criteria for the scenario.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And then that there could be extra mechanics there about like negative points that you whatever, but for I think we more or less got it. I think.
I hope. I don't know if I have enough parts.
The problem is like now, how do we have? This is a problem unique to the format that we're doing. This is how do we each have a hand of cards if Steven has all the cards?
That's a good question. How did we hide that?
We didn't think this one.
We're gonna have to play act, right? Steven, you're gonna have all three hands, and we're all just gonna have to play a scenario. Without actually playing the game.
Ooh,
that's the way
basically.
We're gonna have to do it.
Yep.
Can I present the scenario that we have to beat?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a suggestion from chat that we have a dinosaur laser. So I think our first evil games club robot that we have to fight is a dinosaur with a laser on its head. Robot T-Rex with a laser on its head.
Okay, that tracks. Sure.
You sound like you felt you had to convince us of this.
Yeah, I'm good.
I just wanted to get the details
yes,
right. Like,
right, yeah.
dinosaur laser, but we said it was going to be a robot, so it has to be a robot dinosaur. And they also said laser. We're just trying to make sure we have all the right boxes.
I mean, the only thing that's missing from that is explosions of some form, and then we're good to go.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
There we go.
That's Ellen's forte for sure. Okay.
Okay.
Well, let's see.
Down. Hold on. I made 3 factions. We got Warmonger, we got Scientist, we got Saboteur.
Okay. So just shuffle those and then deal them to each of the 3 of us, and we'll just have to reveal. We won't know, but let's just say we will know in this case. And Ellen, we are now coming up on 15 minutes left in the block. So give us another 15 minutes, and this is going to be. We're going to be able to try to test this as quick as we can and then do a little post-mortem. So we'll see what we can get done in time.
Okay.
Yeah, Steven, you don't have to shovel that long.
Wait, have we?
Yeah, you're right.
We haven't outlined the criteria for success, right? Against this robot.
We haven't.
We are going to have to do this on the fly, I think.
Yeah,
it's going to be some number of something. We're just going to have to test out the play.
You will beat the robot dinosaur with a laser on its head if you have 3 defense, 3 attack, and 3 brain.
Oh, that's easy.
Sounds good.
All right. Based on the numbers I picked. Anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody gets to. Do we get to see it? Should I reveal it?
Yeah.
This is
closer to the camera.
Yes. This is Mark.
Yes.
Okay.
This one's Ellen.
Appropriate.
All right, I'll take it.
And I guess I'm Warmonger. This all tracks.
Yeah. Okay, so in this case, I'm just trying to have the most brain. Steven, you're actually trying to get us to fail. Or no, Ellen, you're trying to get us to fail. And Steven, you're trying to get the most attack.
Yes. Okay, now
and
I
then,
got a big deck of parts. Like, all of the parts have, like, these numbers definitely aren't balanced, but of course not. We just started.
Yeah.
What the heck? You had 15 minutes, Steven. Why not?
Come on. What are you doing? Okay, so I guess I'll just divide them evenly. I don't know how many I made. 2, 3.
We'll find out.
Yeah. 3.
Oh, man.
Well, while Steven's doing that, I just want to say this is going great. I'm really enjoying this one.
Yeah,
this is
fun.
fun. Did I count right? Yeah. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And no one gets that one. Okay. Cool. Yes, I should have put on the back of them the body, and then on the other side the stats. I guess it doesn't matter that much. Okay, so I'm just gonna give this one to me. I don't know what I got. I'm gonna give this one to Ellen.
I'm gonna open up a notepad on my computer, and I'm just gonna write down all the cards you give me.
Okay, and then this one is.
I want to wing it.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's see. These are your parts.
Those are for Mark?
These are Mark's. These are Mark's, yeah, sorry.
Okay, so I got a B2 and then a 25.
Yep. These numbers are not balanced. I told you.
Sounds good.
This one's a B30.
B30.
It's a body.
Uh-huh. Oh, right, there's categories too.
Yeah, the last 2 were bodies. This one's a limb, and it's defense 10.
Okay.
Head, brain 5, defense 5.
Okay.
Head, attack 15.
Okay.
And limb, brain 10. Wow, you've got a good advantage here. You've got a lot of brain.
Yep.
So it's not really a robot T-Rex with a laser on its head. It's like a robot Dilophosaurus with a laser on its head.
Yeah. Alan, you're going to be real disadvantaged based on the numbers we picked because these numbers are very high. Ed, Ellen, you've got 15.
Okay.
Are you just going to wing it or are you going to write them down?
No, I'm writing it down. Mark is right.
Okay.
The competition's on now.
Yeah, right. I know. Body, attack 30.
Oh, it's a 30. Sorry, I thought it was a 10. Okay.
30, yeah. Oh, my handwriting.
That's cool.
Limb with defense 5. Body with defense 30. Head with brain 15. And then limb with attack 10. And then do I need to I can see what I have. I'm not going to.
Yeah, we don't actually have to know what you have. You can just
Okay.
And in fact, Ellen's not going to remember what my cards are, and I don't remember what hers are. So this is actually kind of okay. So a play is I will just say what type of card I will play, and we each say that, and then we'll reveal at the end. And so we each have our categories we want. To defeat this thing, I think 3-3-3 is probably too low of a threshold.
Yeah.
Should we say 20-20-20? Or is even that too low?
Okay, here's an idea. What if we made it so that you need a defense of 30 to pass? No, a defense of 15 to pass. And that's it. Does that make sense? Because it's not any one of our goals.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, okay. And ultimately, that might not make sense for other configurations of players and stuff, but that'll work for our prototyping purpose.
Yes.
Because it gives us an alternate motivation explicitly.
Yeah.
With it. Okay, great. Cool. So that's not how the game will work exactly, but it'll motivate us in the way that we want it to. I love it.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Awesome. Very smart.
So now we pick one of each category?
Yes. And so we need to decide what are the limits for the robot, right? It can have this many of how many? Should we just say it can have 2 of each? Or 2 brain, 2 body, 4 limbs? I mean, I guess the turn will be
one
over.
brain. Let's go 1 brain, 1 body, 4 limbs.
I like that.
Well, the turn will be over almost, or the game will be over after 2 turns then, right?
That's maybe okay because we only have 10 minutes.
Fair enough. Okay, perfect. Because then I have a huge advantage in terms of I have tons of a brain in my hand.
You do,
but you don't know. But some of my brains are in limbs, and so.
Okay.
Right.
So okay. So I get this. This is good.
Got it. So the criteria are you have to fill out all these spots on your robot, and it has to meet 30 defense minimum.
Mark, you're gonna win.
Yes. Okay.
My cards suck. Who drew these things, man? Come on.
All right. So let's each pick a card to play. I'm going to pick a. I'm going to pick a body card.
Okay.
And you wouldn't know that necessarily until I flip it down.
Right. You put it on the table, but it would have the body icon on the back.
Yes.
Right. What I'd love to, and this becomes a physical challenge. I'd love to be able for I not to know what types you're playing before I play mine, or we do it in sequence. In which case, then it's fine.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I just thought of something that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Go for it.
What if certain parts they might have negative? They have a negative attribute. So
man,
so
I
plus
wish I
this,
had thought
but
of
minus that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you want brain, but it's minus defense, and that hurts the goal. So you actually you won't play that card until you know it's safe to play it.
Right, and
you're the saboteur, and you can play that card, but you can act dumb. You're like, oh, but I really want the brain. That's why I play.
Well, and
or
that
you
would
can
make
act like a scientist. Yeah, and because
right. Yeah, so it would make sense because then it would make sense for the enemy thing to need multiple different stats because you're having to balance against the different stats across the entire robot, right? Yeah. So I do also need we need 30 defense, but we also need 20 brain. And this appendage, it has -5 defense, but it's got 9 brain.
Yeah. This is great, man. This is so smart, because it not only allows us to have the scenario be more interesting without having to add more complexity.
Yeah.
But it also allows us to hold our factions a little more secret a little longer, and it rewards clever play. In that. This is genius.
Ellen, tell past Steven that so he can draw the correct cards.
Well, it's let me rewind time.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be in the game, but let's prototype this real quick, and then with the understanding that it will have that richness going forward.
Yeah, okay, so we can't really hide what cards we're about to pick. So we'll just do it simultaneously. Ellen, did you pick your card? It sounds like Mark did.
Oh, there's no way for me to win, really, so it's hard for me to pick. You lay down a body card, right, Mark?
Yeah.
I'm going to lay down a head card.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, perfect. I'm about to lay down a limb card, so that works out.
Okay. So this works pretty well if we do it in sequence. So there's none of that resolving that we talked about earlier. So maybe we give up on that because it's kind of hard to, Anyway, all right. So that's what we've done. So there's no conflict or whatever, and so we'll reveal what it is.
Pick. I picked limbs 5.
Mine is that brain 30.
Oh, I thought you picked body. You picked brain?
No, it's body.
No, the body
it's
gives
a body
brain
card,
30.
But it's the brain stat.
Yeah.
What the heck, Mark?
I know,
I'm the saboteur.
Oh yeah,
No,
none
so
of us have
that's the thing.
skill.
I'm like this. You know, I play Civ this way. I just dump everything into science without regard for the consequences.
Okay, I put down a head with attack 15.
Okay, we got. Ooh, hold up. I'm coming back. Okay, so far we have 20 total in this. We've got how much brain? You said you had 30 brain. 30 brain.
30 brain.
Yes. And then we have one body, one brain. Oh, we're good on brains and bodies now.
We're good on brain and body, so all that's left is limbs.
We also have no defense, and we need 30 defense.
Yep. And not that I'd revealed this to you while playing, but none of my remaining cards that I can play have defense.
Oh, good.
So all I can go for now is like the noble failure, right? Like I can maximize. So that might be a gameplay strategy. Is I'll maximize my faction, even though I'm certain that I've already lost the race for the to help with the team.
Oh,
right?
You did my job for me. Thanks.
You know, sometimes it goes that way. It was 30 brain, Ellen. How could I turn it down? It's too tempting.
That dinosaur is going to get so many people with its laser.
I bet Ellen got all the defense cards. I bet that's what happened.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it in the post.
All right, so our next turn, I will play a limb card.
And we have no choice but to play limb cards at this point, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's true. And there's 3 limbs left, so we all play a limb card if we have it.
I also play a limb card.
I also play a limb card.
Okay. I was either reading this wrong or psych because my limb has defense 10.
Okay.
Oh, well, all right.
So you revealed yours, Mark. And then, Steven, do you reveal
mine
next?
Mine is +5 shield, +5 brain.
Okay, so we're at 15 defense?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
All right, my limb has 5 defense.
Hey, we still didn't make it, right? We're at 20.
That's 20. We needed 30,
Is it just
right?
5?
It's just 5.
Oh, okay. And then I added 5 to brain. Yeah. So.
Uh-huh. So, Ellen, did you play... I stumbled onto an accidental strategy here. Ellen, did you play the defense because you knew it was hopeless?
Yeah.
So even though I didn't do this, I actually didn't realize I had a defensive limb card. So that's a bluffing strategy. I could just say like, well, I got nothing. And then
Actually, Mark, the truth, I forgot I was supposed to sabotage the mission.
Oh, we are excellent players of this game. I love it.
Interesting game. The only winning move is to forget what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay, well, we pretty much hit an hour now.
Yeah.
So I think we've learned a lot, and I think we have a really solid idea for how to go forward.
Yeah.
We can do 2 or 3 minutes of postmortem before we call it. Put a button on it.
That sounds good. I feel like every time we do a nice games jam, I'm always like, I want to make this game. I want to play it.
Me too.
What's great is when we do stumble onto a card game like this, something that's actually just physically, like something we can actually make.
Yeah.
Getting this to a proper place won't be as hard as some of our other designs.
Right.
So I would be happy for funsies on a weekend hammering it out if you two would love to, because this is great. I love this.
Yeah.
We've never done like a nice games jam continued, but like
we could do a part 2 on this one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's really good.
That would be
And then we don't have to use our free time. I love it.
I mean, I wasn't planning on it using it really anyway. But now I'll use it for something more fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
I thanks to the comments from the chat and the ideas, like there were some pretty someone suggested sinkhole as a natural disaster. And I'm not sure what the robot would do, like shovel more into it,
like a
fill it
grappling
up.
hook, or in case you fall down there, or
well, obviously the play is to have more swords so you can punch the sinkhole into submission. Duh.
Yeah.
If you flatten all the land around the sinkhole, it's no longer a sinkhole.
Exactly. Then it's just land.
Extreme terraforming. You just
Then it's just like a depression. It's a cauldron.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I really liked how I was drawing all the stuff, so I was a bit distracted. I couldn't quite, but I understood what we were doing, even while we were doing it, which was great. Y'all described the rules very well enough for me to understand it while I was even distracted doing things.
Great job keeping up with these. Like, brainstorming is, there's ideas flowing everywhere, especially when you got a bunch of people who are excited about it, and you kept up really well. And
Thanks.
Your handwriting isn't that bad.
Oh, yay. Okay, you can read this. This says Roboston.
Mm-hmm.
It says brain body.
Yes, brain, body, legs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes
I think that, we're time constrained here, but one of the really good skills of prototyping is like, we are throwing out a ton of ideas, but when you need to try it out, to be able to distill that into something that's workable, and seeing us kind of like fumble around with that. But Steven, you're the hand that did it. So well done, because I think we could have easily spun out a little bit further or wasted even more time trying to find our way to something like that. But I think the heart of the idea, we were able to get enough cards and enough things, actually to do it. So that's fantastic.
Well, I think that, brings me to the thing I was going to add is one of the reasons I love doing these is just such a great example of the idea of time boxing, like giving yourself an uncomfortably short time constraint to try to get something done. Not because you can actually think you're going to get it done and be satisfied with the result, but you're never going to be satisfied. Like, you being satisfied is not a good criteria for finishing a thing when you're just starting out by idea generation. You just have to get stuff out there and build it and try it. And so, making yourself do it fast is a good way to get stuff done.
Yeah, that's why we have a timer.
Mm-hmm. It's a really ominous timer, though. I wish it came in blue or something.
All right. Well, this is another part of the show we edit out a little bit where we say, "Are we done? Ready to do the outro?"
Yeah.
Hey, that's our show. We want to thank 2DCon for hosting this live episode, and to all the donors to Able Gamers, and you can get in on that, 2dcon.net/donate. You can still donate. Able Gamers, very cool cause. If you're watching us live, stick around for spicy fan fiction. Time got sort of stretched away this evening, but that should be coming up very shortly. Check out our website, nicegames.club, for show notes and links to resources on this project. We're also going to put the video for it, so if you're listening to us on the normal feed, you can watch us. You can see Ellen's amazing clock and Steven's really cool deck of cards on the show page. If you like this episode, give us a review on your favorite podcast app and tell your friends. Independent podcasts like ours rely on word of mouth to grow. We love hearing from our listeners as well. So for a quick way to give us feedback on the show, head over to nicegames.club/feedback and fill out a short little form. You can get in touch with us on Twitter @NiceGamesClub, where Dale tweets about game dev resources and VR accordions. Or you can email us at contact@nicegames.club. Ask us questions, suggest topics, or just say hello. So until we start again, remember to
play nice
and make nice.